Hey there guys, it's Rodog Speaks. Finally back with another video, a proper video for the first time in 2024. So yeah, glad to be back. So today I wanted to raise awareness and talk about a article or column that appeared, I think it was on Friday, by the right-wing journalist who writes for the Times, Matthew Parris, who decided to write, in light of the budget that happened this week, about how it's right that we slash disability benefit because people just abuse the system. So I'll give you a little screenshot of what he actually said, and I'll read it out to you. I do not believe in ADHD at all, except as a catch-all for a whole gaggle of unrelated ways people behave. I think autism is a real thing for a relatively small number of people, and a much abused diagnosis for a huge number who are somewhere on a spectrum we're all on, and the use of, quote, anxiety and depression as ominous labels for perfectly common responses to circumstance cruelly devalues the real afflictions far fewer people suffer from. It's a pity we've ended up with a benefit system that can only stoke bad medical science. Right, Matthew, this is from a person who has no qualifications or background in any medical expertise, or works in the NHS or knows anything about these sorts of disorders, but is quite keen to blow hard his opinion on autism, spectrum disorder, mental health problems, and people who have ADHD, because he just wants to, again, like all Tories do, throw red meat to the base of, here's yet another group of people we can discriminate and demonise because we're that desperate at this point. So that's what he said in his little column piece. It's just ableist, is exactly what it is. It's what I made this video to make a point about. And it's disgusting. And, a lot of people have raised this, rightly so, and said it's ableist, it's demonising vulnerable people, and he knows nothing about it. He completely misunderstands, the diagnosis. I mean, I could, and I have done, Googled, and even do a tiny bit of research and tell you that there are about 700,000 diagnosed children and adults in the UK who have autism. And I'm not even counting the undiagnosed people, of which it could go into the millions, because it's such a misunderstood and under-researched disorder that I'm sure, especially in women as well, who mask quite a lot, I'm pretty certain there are far more than 700,000 people who are on the autistic spectrum and could be potentially diagnosed with autism. But no, Matthew Parris decides that he's gonna, he thinks that he knows it all, and actually, there aren't as many people who have this condition, and they're just taking the piss, basically. It's really gross, and to speak from personal experience, it's really hard to try and get diagnosis for these sorts of disorders, because you have to prove and you have to fit into a criteria of what the medical profession has said what autism or ADHD actually is, under a set of points. So, and I tried to get a referral because I think that I am, to an extent on the spectrum myself, but I got rejected because they said that it was social anxiety or anxiety generalised anxiety disorder, which again is a thing, but, you know, obviously not important enough to get the support for. But I just, guys, I can't believe we're at a point where, you know, the Tories are doing abysmally in the polls. They're on about 18% as of now, and they're desperate, is the long and the short of it. They're really desperate. They're just throwing out whatever they can to point fingers at, you know, who else can we demonise, who else can we take money away from. Gross. And if they think that's going to garner votes, I think they are going to be sorely disappointed, because their voter base is shrinking by the week. And I think what this is also representative of is how it sort of harks back to the tropes of the nasty party of old, where the Conservatives were just really great at demonising and discriminating against disabled people, immigrants, homeless people, scroungers, and it looks like that's sort of coming back as if it ever went away, really, because this guy has absolutely no understanding of what it is like being disabled, but yet here he is spouting his views on how people are just taking the mick and just wanting benefits just because, you know, they feel a bit anxious, which is absolutely not what it is at all. People need support. People really need support, especially in these days with the massive cost of living crisis. People just can't afford stuff like basic necessities, and it's making people stressed. It's making people, you know, lose their houses, struggling to feed their children, keep their families together, keep their jobs. And this guy knows absolutely nothing of what that life is like, from the sounds of it. He's a privileged, entitled bloke who thinks that, you know, we need to slash disability benefit because people are just abusing the system, without even doing an ounce of research of what it is like to live that sort of life. Disabled people, of which I think there's about 2 million who are sort of on benefit in this country, they would work if they could. You know, they just physically are not able to. They just can't. Whether it's they've got a physical condition, they've got, you know, heart disease, some other illness, mental health related, you know, as I said, autism, ADHD, anything like that. It's not their fault. Life happens, shit happens, and you can't control it. And people would love to go to work and have an income and support themselves, support their family, you know, get a house, get on with life. But for whatever reason, illness has stopped them from doing that. And they're not abusing the system. People need support. And if the government decided to, instead of doing tax cuts, invested in public health and actually supported people back into work, back into employment, then, you know, it would pay for itself. People want to get back to work. They don't just sit around just for the sake of it, just because they're lazy. It's just that the government has made an ideological choice to discriminate and demonise people, choosing not to help them, not to support them, not to understand why they're in the situation that they're in, but instead just force people back into work, even though they're ill, even though they're sick, they can't physically work. But no, it's like, oh, if we just take away the benefits, it gives them more of an incentive to actually get up and off their lazy asses and go and find a job. What the actual hell? That is so hateful. That's so discriminatory. That's ignorance and ableism in its purest and finest form. And it just speaks of a complete non-desire to understand the issues and the problems that this community has. And it's disgusting. There's just an unwillingness to help and support. And they're not interested in funding the NHS or public health or community support networks. They just leave that to charities just because they just don't think that it's something that's worth investing in. But it absolutely is. If you have a healthy populace, then the better the economy will be in the long term. That's just basic. But Conservatives don't care about that because they just think, oh, you're disabled, there's something wrong with you, you're lazy, and you're not helping the economy, so we're not going to pay for you or help you at all. Yeah, that's pretty much all I wanted to say. Just that it's really important that, you know, this community and this group of people who are in this country and do exist are helped and supported. Just because there are a growing number of us, and it's a serious thing, and it should be understood, and it should be properly supported and invested in, because, you know, we are important people and we are a value to society and should be treated as such. So yeah, that's all I have to say. Thanks for watching. If you like this video, please don't forget to subscribe and give it a thumbs up. We'd really appreciate it. It helps with the algorithm. So yeah, rate, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you guys in another video. Bye!